I know I just said I was going to take a break, but I really need to take a second and respond to some of these comments.
Well, first thing you did wrong was looking at the comments.
And maybe I will finally give my extended and final thoughts on Doom Eternal.
I'll be sure to come back and check that one out. No, I won't.
And just, say screw it, I'm done talking about it. I've talked about it enough. I'm never going to change my mind.
You're never going to change your mind, but you might later give your extended thoughts. Got it?
Because everything I feel is just my natural emotional response. You're not going to, gaslight me into thinking it's a better game than I think it is.
That's not what gaslighting means.
And you're allowed to have your opinion. Just because I'm a YouTuber doesn't make me any more right than you.
You're allowed to have your opinion. Now here's a 20-minute video of me complaining about other people's opinions.
As just an average viewer. That being said, the rampant ad hominem and the generic get good comments are highly annoying.
Keep in mind here he's poo-pooing ad hominems. Just keep that in mind going forward. Ad hominems are bad, according to him.
But there's also a decent amount of these comments that they put some thought into it, and some gave some pretty good counter arguments. So I just want to address some of these, and this shouldn't take too long. I know you guys enjoy some of these videos, and there's definitely going to be a rant type of slant.
And I'm sure the logical comments, the level-headed ones that you just mentioned, are the ones that you're going to be focusing on. I'm sure you're not just going to be giving more attention to the trolls, right? And using the trolls to paint the entire fan base as one thing or another, right? And use the trolls as justification to erase and dismiss the things that you've objectively said wrong, right?
To this, as you'll see in a second. So some of these I will read directly, and some of these I'm just going to respond to a general idea. So yeah, the first type of comment is obviously people complaining that I'm not good enough at the game to play Nightmare or something. Which, if I beat the main game and the DLCs on Nightmare, doesn't that inherently mean I'm good enough?
Well, yes, if you beat the game on Nightmare, that means you're good enough to play Nightmare. What?
But whatever, I guess I was supposed to beat it all in a few tries. The people who put several hundred hours into this game.
Yeah, God forbid people enjoy a Doom game.
Do you even understand how easy it is to criticize somebody else's footage? It's quintessential backseat gaming. People have done it since Let's Plays have existed on this website.
Well, yes, I'm kind of with you there. I think that people who focus on the gameplay as opposed to what you're saying about the game, those people can be annoying, yes. But if you're giving a review of a game and you say something wrong and then your footage shows off that you don't understand the fundamentals of the game, that's a different story. Why do you think game journalists are getting so selective with the footage they use? It's because they know we know that they don't know. They know we know they don't know. Right? Yeah. Sorry, it's early. So on one hand, yes, I understand the frustration of people criticizing your gameplay when that's not ultimately what you're talking about. But if you say something that's wrong and then the gameplay also highlights what you misunderstand about something, that's a different situation. It is possible you just made a bad review. Trust me, I know a thing or two about making bad reviews. I still don't like this video that I made. One of my most viewed videos is a fucking awful review I made of Doom Eternal where I slipped my words up and said things that I don't actually think because I just wanted to get the review out. And look, I get it. I get it. This review I made fucking sucks. And I can own up to that. That's the difference between you and me. I can own up to that. I made a shitty review, and I made a follow-up where I corrected myself. You made a shitty review, and you're doubling down.
If you posted your footage, I guarantee everyone could find something to complain about in the way that you played the game.
Yeah, and again, two different scenarios. The people who criticize you for just doing things the way they didn't like, and the people who criticize you for doing something wrong.
Because unless you're literally a speedrunner, you're going to be making mistakes. And I purposely highlighted certain points where I had made mistakes to show how easily you can die with just one mistake.
Well, yeah, that's part of the game. Part of a Doom game is the high stakes. That's part of what makes it fun. That's part of what makes the higher difficulties fun. There's a lot of ways you can approach the combat. The arenas are big and open, and yes, if you make one mistake on higher difficulties, you can die. Even on lower difficulties, if you make one mistake, you can die. That's just the way the game is. It's not good or bad. It's just the way the game is.
And it being on the highest difficulty is not an excuse.
Being on the highest difficulty is not an excuse for high stakes. Okay.
Which reminds me, if you didn't beat it on Nightmare, I don't care about your opinion on this issue, because...
Yeah, by the way, the footage in the background of this video is me going through Doom Eternal on Nightmare. I've been going through Nightmare again. It's tough, but it's fun. It's really rewarding. I just wanted to go through the game again before I binge all the DLC. Sorry, I don't know why I felt the need to specify that.
Some of you people who wrote comments or upvoted other comments telling me I'm bad haven't even beaten it on Nightmare yourself, so...
Oh, there's the quintessential, oh, you can't do the thing, therefore you can't criticize the thing. It's like saying if you don't know how to play guitar, you can't recognize when somebody's a bad guitar player. Or if you're not like a trained actor, you can't recognize when someone's acting is bad. Like, that's not how this works. You don't have to play the game to recognize if somebody's playing a game good or bad. I mean, like, I don't play Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter, but I still enjoy watching Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter esports, and I can still tell when someone's good or bad at the game.
That really invalidates what you have to say. But you have to understand, and this is to...
This sounds like you just trying to find more and more reasons to write off your critics.
Go back to my point about pseudo speedrunning and playing a game for no reason.
Speedrunning is a reason.
That there is no way to prove to anybody how good you are at Doom Eternal, because Doom Eternal is essentially a single-player fighting game.
Oh... What?
The whole game is just spent fighting bots.
Yes, that's most games.
And nobody cares how good you are at fighting bots.
No, that is the point of the game.
But since you're such an insular, echo chamber type of community...
Remember when this guy was saying ad hominems are bad like 2 minutes ago?
You attack anybody that criticizes your favorite game.
Or they respond to criticisms that are wrong. Again, I'm kind of digging into you because I was in the same position you were in. I made a shitty review, and I corrected myself because I took my lumps. I recognized that I was doing something wrong. It's not anyone's fault if you didn't comprehend the game immediately, but it does become your fault when you don't own up to that.
But you don't represent the majority. And you don't have to look any further than the fact that this game hasn't won any Game of the Year awards except by maybe some no-name publication. It didn't even get the Gamer's Choice Game of the Year award at the Game Awards.
Okay, two things. First of all, the Game Awards are just a circle jerk for people in the industry. And all you have to do to realize that is look at the board of people who actually determine who wins the Game Award categories. Like, seriously, this is who determines the winners of the Game Awards. Look at this list of people and tell me this is a good representation of what gamers actually think.
It was beaten out by Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, it's almost like the people who enjoyed Doom Eternal and Hades aren't as vitriolic as Sony ponies. I said this in a previous video. I didn't even know the player's choice vote thing was happening until after it was over. The vast majority of gamers don't give a shit about stuff like this.
And those are on one platform. So clearly people didn't like Doom Eternal that much if they didn't bother to show up to vote for their favorite game.
Holy shit, bro. Doom Eternal sales, here they are. Doom Eternal Steam charts, here they are. Doom Eternal Metacritic, here it is. People like this game a lot. People like this game a lot. Just because the fan base isn't as rabid as the PS4 exclusives, that doesn't mean anything. It's like if you went to a Facebook page for Buffy the Vampire Slayer, right? Like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan page. And then you posted a poll. What's better, Buffy or Seinfeld? Like, you're not going to get honest results there.
So yeah, if you ever wonder why Doom Eternal didn't win any Game of the Year awards, which I don't, and it's not just because journalists were sucking feminine penis. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
No, I don't know what you're talking about. Please tell me.
The game just alienated the casual fan base of gamers completely.
Yeah, and Sony alienates the hardcore fan base of gamers completely. It's called having a target audience. There's nothing wrong with it. Some games are harder, some games are easier, and there's nothing wrong with either of those things.
But no, it doesn't matter. When you exist in an echo chamber, you think your opinion is the majority.
You would know a thing or two about echo chambers.
So how dare somebody from outside your community criticize your favorite game? He must just be bad at the game.
I mean, kinda.
And it's like, I don't care if you think I'm bad. I beat the hardest difficulty, unless you count Ultra Nightmare, which, you know, fair enough. I probably can't beat Ultra Nightmare without spending another 30 to 40 hours playing a game that I don't even like that much in the first place.
That one, I'm in your camp. If you play this game on Ultra Nightmare, you're not human. Like, I love Doom Eternal, but, like, if you play that on Ultra Nightmare, like, hats off to you, and also, holy fuck.
So why would I do it? But also, imagine actually watching video guides on mechanics.
What's wrong with that?
Because the game doesn't explain how they work. Is that not incredibly degenerate for any of you who have some sort of sanity left.
First of all, again, with the whole ad hominems are bad thing, the big old beast of irony rearing its ugly head. But second of all, like, what is it about Doom Eternal that's not properly explained? Everything about Doom Eternal is properly explained. Fire gives you armor, chainsaw gives you ammo, glory kill gives you health. Almost every enemy has a weak spot or a gun they're especially weak to. All of these things are properly explained to you. In fact, almost too much so. That's one of my only real criticisms of Doom Eternal, is it doesn't really let you figure stuff out on your own the way Doom 2016 did. Doom Eternal spells things out for you a lot more than the previous game did. And even then, that's just like a preference thing. You know, I don't think that's good or bad. It's just a difference in the games. My point is that everything you need to know about Doom Eternal is explained to you in Doom Eternal. And you're really going to have to reach to convince me otherwise.
I mean, again, it's like you're training to be speedrunners. That's why you guys were so butthurt about the speedrunner comparison, because that's what you are.
What's wrong with speedrunning? Some people like speedrunning.
You're wasting your time to beat a game better, not because it's fun, but because of sunk cost fallacy.
Bro, you are trying to dig so deep into the shallow end of the pool. Some people like speedrunning. Some people like a challenge. Just because you don't like speedrunning and you don't like a challenge doesn't mean those people are wrong for liking it.
You've already wasted so much time getting better at a game that you convinced yourself it's fun to do the same exact thing over and over again, because it's not a multiplayer game, there's no unique experiences, all the spawns are the same, you're literally just doing the same thing over and over again to get better at the game for no reason.
Congratulations, you just described video games. Doing the same thing over and over again and getting better at it. You say it's for no reason. We say because it's fun. Like, have you played video games before? Have you never played a video game? You literally just described video games, and you're using that as a criticism. Like, at this point, you're not a critic. You're just kind of a dick.
So yes, comparing you to speedrunners is pretty fucking apt. And I guarantee if I watched all of your faces while you played the game, they would be as soulless and expressionless. You people are so dopamine fried that this is the only way that it can stimulate you with this incredibly fast, challenging experience.
Holy hell, bro. Why did you even bring up ad hominems if you're just going to ad hominem every 5 seconds at people who disagree with you? Some people like a faster game. Some people like a more challenging game. If you don't like those things, that's fine. That's not a negative mark on you. That's not a negative mark on the game either. But you think it is.
And it's like, it's essentially just the worst part of the Souls fan base is the Doom Eternal fan base.
Shocker, the guy who thinks Doom Eternal is too hard also doesn't like the Souls fan base.
You guys are making people who like the game casually look bad.
But you don't even like the game casually. So what?
And you will lead to the destruction of your own favorite franchise because you're going to make it cater more and more to a smaller crowd each time, the more elitist and hardcore people.
How is that going to make a franchise fail? I mean, Doom Eternal is much more complicated and, I guess, hardcore than Doom 2016, and Doom Eternal still sold and reviewed tremendously. Dark Souls sells and reviews tremendously, and that's a much more, quote, hardcore game than the average action RPG. Again, some people like easier games, some people like harder games. There's nothing wrong with either of those things, and there's nothing wrong with having a target audience.
It's just so pointless. I mean, really, imagine playing a single-player fighting game that is only single-player.
So Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, God of War, God Hand? What's your point?
And imagine wasting hours training to get better, fighting bots. That's what this is.
Yeah, some people like those kinds of games. Some people like playing fighting games against bots because there's a lot of catharsis that comes from doing complicated combos really well. And there's a lot of, kind of power fantasy, that same kind of dopamine power fantasy that comes from doing those combos and executing them really well, even on a bot. Even if it's not on a real person, even on a bot, it feels really good. Some people don't like multiplayer games, but they still like the fundamentals of those kinds of games. There's nothing wrong with that.
Another thing that you fanboys fail to understand.
Yes, we're the fanboys here.
And I want you to be honest with me, which of course you won't, but let's pretend for a moment you're going to be honest with me.
I mean, I'm always honest in these videos. I'm intrigued. Go on.
How many times have you played Doom Eternal?
I think I'm on my fourth run. Let's just go with third and a half, I guess. I played through it twice. Once on normal, I forget the exact names, but I'm played it through it on normal, then I played through it on hard, and then I started a nightmare run, but then I moved in the middle of it. So then I just now started over that nightmare run. So I guess 3.5, 2.5. I don't know.
If it's more than 2, then you've played the game significantly more than I have, and so of course you're better than me at the game. If the answer is only 2, and you've watched a bunch of YouTube guides by like Under the Mayo about how mechanics work, then again, perfect reason you're better than me. Why should I have done either of those things just to review DLC for a video game?
You're asking why it's important for you to understand game mechanics for you to review the game? Like, just so we're clear, that's the question you're asking?
Name one other video game in existence where you have to play the game multiple times to be good enough to play it on, even the hardest difficulty.
You're asking what other game requires you to put time into it before taking on the hardest difficulty? Just confirming that's what you're asking?
I can't even think of a game where you have to beat it multiple times just to have a chance to win effectively at the highest difficulty to appease try-hard fanboys.
I mean, Binding of Isaac is the first one that comes to mind for me. A game that you play multiple times to be prepared for the higher difficulties, yes. It's like, so does every single-player game. Yeah, if you play the game on lower difficulties, you're more prepared for the higher ones. How is this out of the ordinary?
And I'm not going to take back anything I said about you people wasting your time, because you are. And obviously, you've all come to terms with that because you're having fun. I would just call it addiction.
Have you never played a challenging video game before? Because you really sound like you've never played a challenging video game before.
Because if you've ever watched any speedrun in your life, and I'm not even going to count GDQ, because all of them are degenerates.
Hey guys, ad hominems are bad.
But if you just count normal speedrunners, look at their face while they're playing the game.
Yeah, it's called concentrating on something. I'm not surprised you're unfamiliar with that.
Do they look like they're having fun? No, of course they're not, because they've played the game like 1,000 times. They know exactly what's going to happen.
You've never played a game more than once? Like, you've never had a game that you love so much and that you play so much that you know the layout by heart?
They've done the same thing over and over again just to beat us slightly faster because their dopamine receptors are fried.
By this logic, every single video game is bad. By this logic, every single video game that you've played once before is now bad.
And so are yours, whether you admit it or not.
Yeah, I love it when people on the internet tell me about me. You don't know anything about anybody in your audience. Shut up.
And it's time to just fucking go cold turkey, dude. Stop playing Doom Eternal. Stop playing any shooters. Play like an action RPG, a hack and slash, a platformer.
Earlier in this video, you said Doom Eternal was basically a fighting game because you're just fighting bots. And now you're suggesting other single-player games. Like, just stop. You've lost the plot.
A fucking strategy game. Play literally anything else for a while. And then come back to shooters, and you'll be fine. You'll start having a good time again.
Well, actually, I play shooters now, and I'm still having a good time, so I'm just going to keep doing that.
Instead of this remnants of fun that you claim to have.
Yeah, God forbid people have fun playing games that I don't have fun with. I am the authority on fun.
But again, that's just another opinion you people probably won't be able to handle. I don't really care what you do either way.
I don't care what you do either way. Commence 20-minute video about how much I care.
But to address a few of these in particular, one that annoyed me was one of my clips where I got stun-locked to death by an archvile. Let me state that again. Stun-locked to death. People managed to nitpick that and say I was walking up to an archvile with a shotgun rather than dashing, using grappling hook or any ranged weapon.
Yeah. Look, stun locking is not fun. I'm never going to deny that being stun locked sucks. But yes, in this situation, it was completely avoidable. And the reason you got stun locked was because you made a mistake. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just you made a mistake. So adjust.
Bad game design. Proceeds to walk face first into a mancubus. First of all, those are just failures of awareness on my part.
Yes, there's nothing to do with game design.
Normally, I wouldn't have done those things. You're taking 5-second clips out of context. I didn't know where that archvile was.
You're taking 3-sentence comments out of context.
And that's not my problem. My problem is I turn left.
No, it is your problem that you didn't know where it was. In an arena shooter, if you don't know where the enemies are, yes, that is your problem. That is quite literally your problem.
see an Archvile have about half a second at most to react before he shoots fire and instantly kills me.
Wait, he instantly killed you? I thought he stun locked you.
Like, my reaction speed is not the best in the world, I'll admit that. I'm not like a god gamer, and I'll never claim to be.
Okay, so it's not the game's fault.
That being said, I'm willing to beat my head against a wall to beat a particularly hard part, because normally, I find that fun. Doom Eternal, though, again, unless you are literally watching YouTube guides on mechanics and weapon combinations, the average player is not going to be able to beat this shit at all, no matter how hard he tries.
I have not watched a single video on Doom Eternal mechanics. The only time I've ever looked up a video is at one point... Ooh. But I mean, I looked up a Nightmare guide on like some ideas of how to best approach this specific combat encounter. That's the only video I've ever watched of Doom Eternal. Most people are not the person you're describing, and yet you're painting everyone as such.
And I just think that's bad design.
It's bad design. Look, I'm done with this video. I don't know how long this video is at this point. I'm just kind of done with it. There's another 10.5 minutes, and this like to dislike ratio truly is not surprising. It's one thing to admit that you didn't understand mechanics as well as you thought you did. It's another thing entirely to blame absolutely everyone but yourself. This quite possibly may be the worst review I've ever seen. Congratulations. Toodles.